Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the video response for Ryan Boundless. I broke this up because it's really long. And so today is going to be the second part of it and all of that. Okay, I'm from Michigan, so think about people in Michigan studying Spanish. Yeah, there's some opportunity to speak Spanish in some places in Michigan, but most people in Michigan who speak Spanish, who are non-native speakers of Spanish or not coming in a Hispanic household, don't speak it well. And their pronunciation is atrocious, but we'll get to that in a second.
Their pronunciation is atrocious. They can't really pronounce R's and L's clearly. Not everybody now. Some of them can, but I'm talking about the majority. TH sounds, S sounds, and SH sounds. I mean, it's very difficult because they only have 5 different pronunciations in their language. A, I, U, E, O. All the words are based around those sounds. So, in English has a lot more sounds. So, it's just very difficult for their mouth and their tongue to form our difficult English words.
Our difficult English words. I hate that. I hate that. It is right at the edge of what is called Nihonjindon. It's the idea that Japanese people or Japan is a special, unique snowflake, and that foreigners can't learn Japanese because it's too difficult for them, or that Japanese can't learn English because it's too foreign, too difficult. And it is, what do you call it? Crap. Yeah, that's it. That's just not the case. Okay, Japan has 5 clear vowel sounds, just like Spanish has 5 clear vowel sounds. We got lots of consonants, and yeah, English does have more sounds in the language, and Japan is considered a sound poor language, but that doesn't mean it's not difficult or challenging, is maybe a better word, for people to be able to learn. And English is not impossible for Japanese people to learn. And as far as really detailed pronunciation, as long as you're communicating, it doesn't actually matter all that much. As long as your R and L is understandable in context, it doesn't matter if it's a nice clear R or L, la 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 la, or ra 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 ra, because that flap that's used in Japanese is neither R nor L and will function well enough most of the time. Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to hit with that, but it's the pronunciation. Pronunciation is simply how much time you want to put into it. It doesn't matter. Okay, so one of the things, a baby, any baby, can distinguish between R and L anywhere in the world. But over the course of initial development, over the first, I don't know, month or 6 weeks, I think it is, I can't remember, if the mother is not making a differentiation between R and L, then the baby will lose the ability to differentiate between R and L. And so that's why that's how native speaking comes. The babies listen to their mom and the people speaking around them, and if they detect that there's a difference between those sounds, then they will learn and pay attention to the difference. If not, it'll slip away. Now, regaining that recognition later in life is more challenging. It's more complicated. It's difficult. And so that doesn't matter all that much. Spelling matters. Pronunciation, if you can get it to the point where you are understandable, and maybe that's where he's heading with it, as long as the student is understandable, then perfect pronunciation does not matter, because once you start talking about perfect pronunciation, whose perfect pronunciation are you talking about? Because people in in the UK, give Americans everybody gives Americans and Canadians a bunch of crap about our pronunciation because we got it right. And they're all wrong, and they say things weird. However, people in Alabama have the same problem. So the number of regional dialects that exist in the US, if you really want to take a really fascinating look, there's a guy who does regional dialects through the UK. And the distances where you're talking about where one dialect is prominent and then you move into another is fascinating. It's unbelievable how many different versions, forms of pronunciation in English are available just in the islands. There's a difference between, I'm from Michigan, so I grew up in Adrian, but Toledo, just across the border in Ohio, has slightly different pronunciation on some words. It is possible to learn to detect that. And who's right? Well, other than me, right? So, perfect pronunciation. Next question is whose? Because everybody who's teaching English from a different country always fights about it because theirs is the right one.
Another thing that's very frustrating is that, well, with the adult students, they studied English in elementary school, or no, actually a lot of them didn't. But in middle school or high school, they studied English with a Japanese teacher, and they were taught English incorrectly. So a lot of times in a lesson, I'll get this: well, I was taught this way. I was taught that this way is right. So why are you teaching me this way? You know, when in fact I'm the native English speaker. I'm actually teaching you the correct English, and your Japanese teacher taught you this way. Now you're questioning what I'm teaching you. For example, the pronunciation of the word often. Okay, they're taught here to say often, and I don't know. Maybe British people say often, but where I grew up in California, we say often. The word ben, B-E-E-N, like the past participle of the be verb. They pronounce it bean, like B-E-A-N, like the vegetable. Or they say, I'm going, let's see, I go to shopping. They all make the same mistakes, and it's because the Japanese teachers teach them this way. And then when I have to recorrect their pronunciation, I always get questioned on it. So that's very frustrating.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take this from the back end and work our way forward. All of the Japanese people are making the same mistakes. That's a shock because they're all speaking Japanese as their native language, and so you get what's known as interference from the native language when you're learning a second language. Ask any native Spanish speaker how a second language Spanish speaker sounds, and they'll tell you the same thing. Americans all make this mistake. French people all make this mistake. Think about the foreigners who are learning Japanese. Try to detect the differences, the mistakes that each language group makes. So yeah, I'm going to shopping. Shopping is a kind of special word. It's a gerund, or it's an infinitive, or, well, gerund, or it's a gerund, or it's a participle, or there's a lot going on, kind of, with that. And so it might be frustrating that people aren't picking up the right verb forms initially, but that's why you're supposed to teach. And just for the record, just because you're a native speaker doesn't mean you know the language and know how to teach it. You know how to speak it, but that doesn't mean you can communicate actually what's going on. And so, yeah, if your student questions why are we doing it this way, you need to be able to explain what the problem is or why you're doing it differently. And that's an important aspect of teaching. Don't just be angry about it. You have to be able to say, well, actually, in this particular situation, this form needs to be done this way, but my teacher told me different. Well, let's take a look at why your teacher did that. Because the first person that teaches someone something, that's the one that's going to stick the longest. So moving back earlier into the video, take a look at that difference between often and often. I'm from Michigan. I say often most of the time. Regional dialects, you shouldn't necessarily be correcting that. It can be close, because it again goes back to the question of who's English and what's correct and what's not. Is everybody in Britain wrong, or people who receive pronunciation wrong for saying often? Are Americans wrong for saying letter instead of letter? So don't correct those kinds of pronunciation. All right, so that was it for today. Thank you very much. Come back tomorrow at about 5 o'clock Japan time. I'll put up the last one, and we will wrap this up. I will see you tomorrow.